Listen to me carefully. I'm Henry Ford, and I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to know. You think you're waiting on money. You think if you just had more capital, more resources, more opportunity, then you could finally build what you've been dreaming about. But let me tell you something that took me years to understand. Money isn't hiding from you. Money is waiting on you to wake up. I didn't start with money. I started with an idea and a decision. And that decision changed everything. Not because the world handed me something, but because I stopped waiting and started acting like the man I needed to become. Now, before we go any further, let me be clear about something. This isn't going to be one of those speeches where I talk about clouds and stars and universal energy. No. I'm going to give you the exact steps I used to go from a farm boy with dirty hands to the man who put America on wheels. And if you listen, if you really listen, you'll walk away from this knowing exactly what to do tomorrow morning. But here's the deal. You've got to stay with me. Don't skip ahead. Don't get distracted, because what I'm about to share with you is the result of decades of mistakes, failures, and lessons learned in the dirt and oil of real life. This isn't theory. This is how it actually works. So let's begin. Most people ask, how do I get money? That's the wrong question. Money doesn't come to people who ask for it. Money comes to people who create value, and value comes from solving problems. When I was young, I worked on farms. I watched men break their backs every single day just to make a few dollars, and I thought to myself, there has to be a better way. The question wasn't, how do I get rich? The question was, what problem can I solve that people will pay me to solve? You see, money is nothing but a measurement of value exchanged. If you solve a $10 problem, you get $10. If you solve $1 million problem, you get $1 million. It's that simple. But most people never stop to think about what problem they're solving. They just show up, do what they're told, and hope someone notices them. That's not how it works. Let me give you an example. There was a man working in my factory named Robert. I remember that he was a good employee. Showed up on time, did what he was told. But one day he came to me and said, "Mr. Ford, I've been here 5 years and I'm still making the same wage. When am I going to get a raise?" I looked at him and said, "Robert, tell me, what problem have you solved in the last 5 years that you didn't solve in your first month?" He just stared at me. He didn't have an answer. Because he wasn't thinking about problems. He was thinking about time. He thought that just because he showed up for 5 years, the money should show up too. But that's not the deal. The deal is this: you solve bigger problems, you get bigger money. You solve the same problem for 5 years, you get the same money for 5 years. So the first thing you need to understand is this: stop asking how to get money. Start asking what problem you can solve that people will pay you to solve. Write that down. Put it on your wall. Make it the first thing you think about when you wake up. What problem am I going to solve today? That's the question that changes everything. Now, let me tell you why money isn't coming to you right now. And this is going to sting a little, but you need to hear it. Money isn't coming because you're not acting like someone who deserves it. I don't mean that in some mystical way. I mean it in a very practical way. Let me explain. When I decided I was going to build automobiles, I didn't have the money to do it. I didn't have investors lined up. I didn't have a fancy workshop. But I acted like I was already the man who was going to build the best car in America. How did I act? I stopped wasting time on things that didn't matter. I stopped spending my evenings at the tavern with the other workers. I stopped complaining about not having enough. I started reading everything I could find about engines and mechanics. I started sketching designs every single night. I started talking to people who knew more than me and asking them questions. In other words, I started living like the person I wanted to become before I became him. Most people do the opposite. They say, when I have money, then I'll act successful. When I have money, then I'll invest in myself. When I have money, then I'll take it seriously. But money doesn't work that way. Money comes to people who are already acting like they have it. Not in a fake way, not in a pretending way, but in a disciplined, focused, committed way. Listen, Money is not going to chase you down. Money goes to people who are ready for it. And being ready doesn't mean having perfect conditions. It means acting like the person who would know what to do with it if it came tomorrow. So here's your first practical step. I want you to ask yourself this question. If I had 10 times the money I have now, what would I do with it? Write it down. Be specific. Not vague things like invest or save. I mean specific. What business would you start? What skill would you master? What problem would you solve? And then here's the key. Start doing that now. With the money you have, with the time you have, with the resources you have. If you'd start a business, start researching it now. If you'd learn a skill, start learning it now. If you'd solve a problem, start solving it now. Because money doesn't come to people who wait. Money comes to people who move. Now let me tell you about a law that governs all wealth. I call it the law of value. And if you understand this, you'll never be confused about money again. Here it is. The amount of money you make is directly proportional to the amount of value you create for other people. Not the amount of time you work, not the amount of effort you put in, the amount of value you create. Let me give you an example from my own experience. When I was working at the Edison Illuminating Company in Detroit, there were plenty of mechanics who worked the same hours I did. We all showed up, we all did our jobs, we all got paid. But I noticed something. Some of these men did just what was required. They'd fix what broke, they'd maintain the equipment, but that was it. I did something different. I didn't just fix problems when they appeared. I studied why they appeared in the first place. I redesigned parts to prevent future breakdowns. I made repairs faster and cheaper. I identified patterns that others missed. We worked the same hours, but I was saving the company money. I was preventing costly shutdowns. I was keeping the power flowing more reliably. And that's why within a few years, I became the chief engineer. Not because I worked more hours, but because I created more value. That's the law of value. Now here's where most people get it wrong. They think, I'll work harder and then I'll make more money. But working harder doesn't make you more money. Creating more value makes you more money. When I built the Model T, I didn't just build a car. I built a car that solved problems. It was affordable. It was reliable. It was easy to repair. I wasn't just thinking about making a car. I was thinking about what would make the farmer's life easier. What would make the merchant's deliveries faster? What would give the working man freedom? And because I focused on value, the money followed. Now, let me talk about something that most people never figure out. And this is the difference between the people who stay broke and the people who build wealth. It's the mindset shift from employee to creator. Listen, I'm not saying everyone needs to own a business. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how you think about your work. Most people think like employees. They think, what do I need to do to get paid? They do the minimum required. They watch the clock. They wait for someone to tell them what to do. And then they wonder why they're stuck. But creators think differently. Creators think, what can I create here? What can I build? What can I improve? There was a young man named Thomas who came to work at my factory. He was assigned to the assembly line. Simple job, putting parts together. Most guys in his position just did the job and went home. But Thomas was different. After about a month, he came to me with a sketch. He'd been watching the line and he noticed that the parts were coming down too fast for some of the older workers. They were struggling to keep up. It was causing delays. So Thomas designed a simple adjustment to the conveyor system that would slow it down just a little in certain sections. Nothing fancy, but it worked. It made the whole line run smoother. I implemented his idea, and then I moved him off the assembly line and into the engineering department. Why? Because Thomas wasn't thinking like an employee. He was thinking like a creator. He didn't wait for someone to tell him to solve that problem. He saw the problem, and he solved it. And that's the difference. Now, you might be saying, Henry, I don't work in a factory. I don't have opportunities like that. But you're wrong. Every single job, every single position, every single role has problems that need solving. You just have to open your eyes and look for them. Are customers complaining about something? That's a problem you can solve. Is there a process that takes too long? That's a problem you can solve. Is there a task that frustrates people? That's a problem you can solve. Creators don't wait for permission. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They just start creating. And here's what happens when you shift your mindset from employee to creator. Two things. First, you become more valuable. When you solve problems without being asked, when you improve things without being told, you become the person that companies can't afford to lose. You become the person they promote. You become the person they pay more. Second, you start seeing opportunities everywhere. Once you start thinking like a creator, you can't stop. You start noticing problems everywhere. And every problem is an opportunity to create value. And every opportunity to create value is an opportunity to make money. This is how I went from working in a machine shop to owning the biggest automobile company in the world. I didn't wait for someone to give me permission. I started creating. I started solving problems. I started creating value. And you can do the same thing. Right where you are, right now. Now, let me destroy a myth that keeps most people stuck forever. The myth that you need money to make money. That's garbage. I didn't have money when I started. I had an idea and a willingness to work. That's it. The first car I built it in a shed behind my house. I didn't have a workshop. I didn't have investors. I didn't have capital. I had scraps and spare parts and long nights after my regular job. But I built it. And once I built it, people saw it. And once people saw it, they wanted to invest in it. You see, here's what most people get backwards. They think, I need money first, then I can build something. But it's the opposite. You build something first, then the money comes. Now I know what you're thinking. Henry, that's easy for you to say. You had skills. You knew how to build engines. Maybe. But skills can be learned. And most businesses don't require advanced skills. They require common sense and hard work. Think about all the successful businesses you know. Most of them didn't start with huge capital. They started with someone seeing a problem and figuring out how to solve it with whatever they had at hand. The truth is, waiting for money is just another form of waiting for permission. It's another excuse not to start. And the longer you wait, the more reasons you'll find not to begin. When I was building that first car in my shed, people thought I was crazy. My wife Clara had to deal with the noise, the mess, the late nights. But she believed in me. And more importantly, I believed in what I was doing enough to start without perfect conditions. You don't need a fancy office to start a business. You don't need expensive equipment to learn a skill. You don't need thousands of dollars to test an idea. What you need is the willingness to start small and build from there. Every big business started small. Every successful person started somewhere. The question is, are you willing to start where you are with what you have? That's the secret. You don't need money to start. You need a problem to solve and the guts to start solving it with whatever you have. Stop using lack of money as an excuse. Money is not the starting point. Action is the starting point. And once you start acting, once you start building, once you start creating value, the money will find you. Now let me talk about something that cost me years of my life to learn. And if you get this, it'll save you years of yours. It's what I call the speed principle. And it's this. The faster you move from idea to action, the faster you succeed. But most people do the opposite. They sit on their ideas. They overthink. They wait for perfect conditions. And while they're waiting, someone else does it. Let me tell you a story. In the early days, I had an idea for a cheaper, lighter engine. I knew it would make the car more affordable, but I wasn't sure if it would work. I could have spent months designing it on paper, running calculations, testing theories. But I didn't. I built a prototype in 2 weeks. It didn't work perfectly, so I adjusted it. Built another one. That one was better. Built another one, even better. Within 3 months, I had a working engine that cost half as much to produce and was more reliable than anything else on the market. Why? Because I moved fast, I tested fast, I failed fast, and I learned fast. Most people would still be drawing designs in a notebook. You see, perfectionism is just fear in disguise. People say, I want to make sure it's perfect before I launch. But what they really mean is, I'm afraid to fail, so I'm going to delay as long as possible. But here's the truth. You're going to make mistakes anyway. You might as well make them quickly, learn from them, and adjust. Because every failure, every mistake, is just one rung on the ladder to success. It's an integral part of the result. Let me explain what I mean by that. When you're climbing a ladder, you don't skip rungs. You step on every single one. Some rungs are solid, some are a little wobbly. But every single rung gets you higher than you were before. That's exactly how success works. Every action you take, whether it succeeds or fails, is a rung. Every prototype that doesn't work teaches you what does work. Every customer who says no brings you closer to the one who says yes. Every failed attempt eliminates one wrong path and points you toward the right one. The man who's afraid to fail is the man standing at the bottom of the ladder, looking up, refusing to put his foot on the first rung because it might be wobbly. Meanwhile, the man who's willing to fail is already halfway up, learning with every step. There's not a single person who's achieved anything worthwhile who hasn't experienced failure or mistakes. Not one. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before he got the light bulb right. But he didn't see those as failures. He saw them as information. Each attempt told him what didn't work, which brought him closer to what did. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people isn't that successful people don't make mistakes. It's that they make mistakes faster, extract the lesson immediately, and keep climbing. Here's what most people don't understand. A mistake is only truly bad when you make it and then don't correct it next time. That's when you're wasting the rung. You stepped on it, it taught you something, and then you ignored the lesson and stepped on the same wobbly rung again. But when you make a mistake, learn from it, and adjust your next action based on that learning, you're climbing. You're making progress. Even if that action also contains a mistake, as long as it's a different mistake, a new mistake, you're still moving up. When you improve every action, even just a little, you're climbing the ladder to results. Maybe your first attempt gets you 10% of the way to your goal. Your second attempt gets you to 20%. Your third attempt gets you to 35%. You're not there yet, but you're climbing. You're making real, measurable progress. And here's something beautiful about this ladder. Once you step on a rung, you don't fall back down. The knowledge stays with you. The lesson is permanent. You can't unlearn what a mistake taught you. So when I was testing that engine and it failed the first time, I learned something I could never unlearn. When it failed the second time, I learned something else I could never unlearn. By the 10th failure, I had accumulated 10 permanent lessons. I was 10 rungs higher than when I started. And the 11th attempt had the benefit of all 10 lessons. That's why speed matters. The faster you move through your mistakes, the faster you accumulate the lessons, and the faster you reach the top of the ladder. When I was testing that engine, I made dozens of mistakes, but each mistake eliminated one wrong approach. Each failure brought me closer to the right solution. If I had waited to make sure everything was perfect, I'd never have built anything, because perfection doesn't exist. Progress exists, improvement exists, but perfection? That's just an excuse to delay. Now compare that to most people. They have an idea, they make one attempt, it doesn't work perfectly, and they say, well, I guess that idea was bad, and they quit. They climbed one rung, decided the ladder was broken, and went back down. But the ladder wasn't broken. They just didn't climb high enough to see the view from the top. There was a man I knew named William. William had an idea for a new kind of plow. He told me about it one night over dinner. It was a good idea, really good. I told him, William, you should build that. Farmers would buy it. He said, oh, I will, Henry. I just want to make sure I get everything right first. That was 10 years ago. He still hasn't built it. You know why? Because he's still getting everything right. He's still standing at the bottom of the ladder, studying each rung, trying to determine if it's perfectly safe before he puts his weight on it. Meanwhile, someone else saw the same problem, built a similar plow, made 20 mistakes in the first 6 months, learned from every single one, and now he's making a fortune. Not because his plow was better from the start, but because he climbed the ladder fast. Speed is a competitive advantage. The world doesn't reward the person with the best idea. The world rewards the person who acts on their idea first, learns the fastest, and reaches the solution before everyone else. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, today, take whatever idea you've been sitting on and take one action toward it. Just one. Step on the first rung. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Just move. Make the phone call. Build the prototype. Write the first page. Do something that moves you forward. And here's the key. When that first action doesn't work perfectly, and it won't, don't quit. Don't go back down the ladder. Look at what went wrong. Extract the lesson. And take the second action with that new knowledge. That's the climb. That's how you build anything worthwhile. One rung at a time. One mistake at a time. One lesson at a time. Every day you delay is a day someone else is moving ahead of you. Every day you wait for perfect conditions is a day that will never come. Every day you refuse to step on that first rung is a day you stay exactly where you are. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates results. Results create confidence. Confidence creates more action. But it all starts with speed, with refusing to wait, with moving now instead of someday, with taking that first step today because tomorrow never comes for those who wait. Now here's something most people don't understand about building wealth. They think it happens in big jumps. They think you need one big break, one big deal, one big moment. But that's not how it works. Wealth builds slowly, and then suddenly. Let me explain what I mean. When I started building cars, I wasn't making 100 a day. I was making 1, then 2, then 5, then 10. It was slow. Frustratingly slow. But here's what I noticed. Every car I built taught me something. Every car I built made the next one a little easier. Every car I built improved the process a little bit. And then, one day, something magical happened. All those small improvements, all those tiny adjustments, all those little lessons, they all came together. And suddenly, instead of making 10 cars a week, I was making 100, then 500, then 1,000. It looked like overnight success to everyone else, but it wasn't. It was years of small, consistent actions compounding on each other. That's the multiplication effect. Small actions, repeated consistently, multiply over time. Most people quit before they see this happen. They do something for a few weeks or a few months and then they say, it's not working. I'm not seeing results, and they quit. But they quit right before the multiplication kicks in. Don't make that mistake. Whatever you're building, whatever you're working on, don't quit before the compound effect kicks in. Every small action you take today is a seed. You won't see the harvest tomorrow, but if you keep planting, one day you'll wake up and realize you're surrounded by an abundant crop. Here's what I want you to do. For the next 30 days, do one small action toward your goal every single day. Just one. Read one page. Write one paragraph. Make one phone call. Improve one process. Learn one skill. It doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is the consistency. Because consistent small actions compound into extraordinary results. Most people overestimate what they can do in one day, and they underestimate what they can do in 1 year. Don't be like most people. Play the long game. Trust the compound effect, and keep moving forward, even when you can't see the results yet. Now let me tell you about a mistake I see everywhere, and it's probably the mistake that's costing you the most money right now. It's the trap of doing too much. Most people think that if they just do more, try more, hustle more, they'll succeed. But that's backwards. Success doesn't come from doing more. Success comes from doing less, but doing it better. Let me tell you what I mean. In the early days, I tried to build all kinds of things. I built engines, I built tractors, I even tried to build a flying machine. I was all over the place. And you know what I accomplished? Not much. I was busy, but I wasn't productive. There's a difference. Then one day I made a decision. I decided I was going to focus on one thing and one thing only: building the best, most affordable automobile in the world. I stopped working on tractors. I stopped working on other engines. I stopped working on anything that wasn't directly related to that one goal. And everything changed. When you focus all your energy on one thing, something powerful happens. You get good at it. Really good. And when you get really good at one thing, people pay you a lot of money for it. But when you're trying to do 10 things, you're mediocre at all of them. And nobody pays good money for mediocrity. Focus is a multiplier. When you focus all your energy on one thing, you don't just get a little better. You get exponentially better. And exponential improvement leads to exponential income. So here's what I want you to do. Look at everything you're trying to do right now. All the projects, all the side hustles, all the ideas, and pick one. Just one. The one that has the most potential. The one that solves the biggest problem. The one that excites you the most. And for the next 90 days, focus on that one thing. Don't start anything new. Don't chase shiny objects. Don't get distracted. Just focus on that one thing and get really, really good at it. I promise you, if you do this, you'll make more progress in 90 days than you made in the last 2 years. Because focus is power, and power creates results. Now let me talk about something that matters more than money: your reputation. You see, money comes and goes. You can lose it, you can waste it, you can have it stolen from you. But your reputation, that's something you build once, and it pays you for the rest of your life. When I started building cars, nobody knew who Henry Ford was. I was just another mechanic with an idea. But I made a decision early on. I decided that my name was going to mean something. It was going to mean quality. It was going to mean reliability. It was going to mean honesty. And I protected that reputation like it was the most valuable thing I owned, because it was. Let me give you an example. Early on, we had a batch of cars that had a defect. Nothing major, just a small issue with the steering mechanism. Most companies would have shipped them anyway. The customers probably wouldn't have even noticed. But I didn't ship them. I recalled every single one, fixed them, sent them back out. It cost me a lot of money. My business partners thought I was crazy. They said, "Henry, nobody will know. Just ship them." But I said, "I know, and eventually they'll know. And when they know, my name will mean nothing." I protected my reputation. And you know what happened? Word got around. People started saying, if it's a Ford, it's built right. If it's a Ford, you can trust it. And that reputation made me more money than any shortcut ever could have. Your reputation is your currency. People do business with people they trust. They pay more for people they trust. They recommend people they trust. If your reputation is built on quality, on honesty, on reliability, you'll have more opportunities available to you. But if your reputation is built on shortcuts, on half-done work, on broken promises, you'll always be scrambling. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Your reputation is being built every single day, with every action, every word, every decision. When you show up late, that's your reputation. When you do sloppy work, that's your reputation. When you make excuses, that's your reputation. When you break your promises, that's your reputation. But also, when you show up early, that's your reputation. When you do excellent work, that's your reputation. When you take responsibility, that's your reputation. When you keep your word, that's your reputation. Every single day, you're either building your reputation or destroying it. And here's something most people don't realize. Your reputation travels faster than you do. Before you walk into a room, your reputation is already there. Before you make a pitch, before you ask for a job, before you try to sell something, people have already heard about you. They've heard whether you're reliable or not, whether you're honest or not, whether you do good work or not. And that reputation determines whether they give you a chance or not. Now listen carefully. Building a reputation takes years. Destroying a reputation takes minutes. One lie, one broken promise, one shoddy piece of work. That's all it takes to undo years of trust. I've seen men lose everything because they thought they could get away with one shortcut, one little dishonesty. And once your reputation is gone, you can't buy it back. You can't talk your way back into trust. You have to rebuild it from scratch, and that takes years. So protect your reputation like your life depends on it, because financially, it does. Here's what I want you to do. Starting right now, for the next 90 days, make a decision. You're going to be fanatical about keeping your word. If you say you'll be somewhere at 9, be there at 8:55. If you say you'll deliver something by Friday, deliver it by Thursday. If you promise a certain quality, exceed that quality. Do this for 90 days straight. Keep every single promise. Show up early for every single commitment. Do excellent work on every single task. And watch what happens. Your reputation will start working for you. People will start noticing. They'll start talking. They'll start recommending you. Now let me tell you about something that changed my entire approach to business. And if you get this, it'll change yours too. It's what I call the service secret. And here it is. The more people you serve, the more money you make. But most people get this backwards. They think, I need to make money first, then I can serve people. Number, you serve people first, then the money comes. Let me tell you how I learned this. When I first started building cars, I was thinking about profit. I was thinking about how much money I could make per car. I was pricing them based on what I needed to make. And you know what? I wasn't selling many cars. Then one day, I had a realization. I was thinking about the wrong thing. I wasn't thinking about the people I was serving. I was thinking about myself. So, I changed my approach. I stopped asking, how much money can I make? And I started asking, how many people can I serve? That's when I decided to build a car that every working man could afford. Not just the rich, not just the wealthy, every working man. The farmer, the factory worker, the shopkeeper. That decision changed everything. Because suddenly, I wasn't just building a product, I was building a service. I was solving a real problem for real people. And you know what happened? The money came. Not because I was chasing it, but because I was serving people. Here's the principle. When you focus on serving people, on solving their problems, on making their lives better, money becomes a natural byproduct. But when you focus on making money, you end up serving nobody, and you make nothing. Think about the businesses that succeed long term. They're not the ones focused on squeezing every penny out of their customers. They're the ones focused on delivering real value, solving real problems, making life genuinely better for the people they serve. When you genuinely care about the people you're serving, when you're obsessed with solving their problems better than anyone else, they feel it. And they don't just buy from you once. They come back. They tell their friends. They become advocates for what you're doing. But when you're just trying to make money, when you're trying to extract value rather than create it, people sense it. They might buy once, but they won't come back. They won't recommend you, and your business dies slowly. I've watched this pattern repeat itself hundreds of times. The people who focus on service build lasting success. The people who focus on money build nothing that lasts. So shift your focus. Every morning, instead of asking, how can I make more money today? Ask, who can I serve today? What problem can I solve? How can I make someone's life better? That shift in thinking changes everything. Because when you're genuinely focused on serving, on adding value, on making things better, the money takes care of itself. This is the secret that every wealthy person knows. And it's the secret that every broke person ignores. Now let me talk about something uncomfortable. Something most people don't want to hear. But it's the truth, and the truth is what sets you free. Talent doesn't matter. Consistency does. I've seen talented people fail. I've seen mediocre people succeed. You know what the difference was? The mediocre people showed up every single day. The talented people showed up when they felt like it. When I was building my first car, I worked on it every single night after my regular job. Every single night. Not when I felt inspired, not when I had energy. Every single night. Some nights I was tired. Some nights I was discouraged. Some nights I wanted to quit, but I didn't. I showed up. I worked. I made progress. That's discipline. And discipline is what builds empires. Most people don't succeed because they're not talented. They don't succeed because they're not consistent. They work hard for a week, then they take a week off. They push for a month, then they coast for 2 months. They're all over the place. And you can't build anything with that approach. Success is built brick by brick, every single day, 1 brick at a time. You can't lay 100 bricks one day and then take a month off. The wall doesn't get built that way. You have to show up every day, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Because here's the secret about discipline. The days you don't feel like showing up are the days that matter most. Those are the days that separate the people who succeed from the people who don't. Anyone can show up when they're excited. Anyone can work when they're inspired. But can you show up when you're tired? Can you work when you're discouraged? Can you keep going when you don't see results? That's the question. And here's what most people don't understand. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. When I first started working on cars after my regular job, it was hard, really hard. I'd come home exhausted, my hands would be sore, my eyes would be tired, and I'd look at that shed and think, I don't want to go out there tonight. But I'd make myself do it anyway, just for an hour, sometimes just for 30 minutes. And you know what happened? After a few weeks, it got easier. After a few months, it became automatic. After a year, I didn't even think about it. I just did it. That's how discipline works. It's hard at first, but it gets easier. And eventually, it becomes who you are. Now here's your practical exercise. I want you to pick one thing. Just one thing that will move you toward your goal. And I want you to commit to doing it every single day for the next 30 days. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, it's better if it's small. Because the point isn't the action itself. The point is building the discipline. Maybe it's reading 10 pages. Maybe it's making 1 sales call. Maybe it's working on your project for 20 minutes. Maybe it's practicing a skill for 15 minutes. Pick one thing. Write it down. And do it every single day for 30 days. No exceptions, no excuses, no days off. And here's the key. Track it. Get a calendar. Put an X on every day you do it. Don't break the chain. Why? Because seeing that chain of X's builds momentum. It gives you proof that you're consistent. And that proof builds confidence. And confidence makes the next day easier. After 30 days, you won't just have developed discipline. You'll have proven to yourself that you're the kind of person who follows through. And that changes everything. Because once you know you're the kind of person who does what they say they'll do, you start believing in yourself. And once you believe in yourself, there's no limit to what you can achieve. This is how I built everything I have. Not through talent, not through luck, through discipline. Through showing up every single day. Through doing the work even when I didn't feel like it. And if I can do it, you can too. Now let me tell you about something that changed my life. And it's probably the simplest thing I'm going to tell you. But simple doesn't mean easy. It's about making decisions. Most people are stuck because they haven't decided. They think they've decided, but they haven't. They've just thought about deciding. They've considered their options. They've weighed the pros and cons. But they haven't actually decided. And until you decide, nothing moves. Let me explain what I mean. When I decided to build the Model T, it wasn't a casual decision. It was a definite decision. I decided exactly what I was going to build, exactly who I was going to serve, exactly what problem I was going to solve. I didn't decide to maybe build a car someday. I didn't decide to try building cars and see what happens. I decided with finality. And once I made that decision, everything changed. Opportunities appeared. Resources showed up. People came to help. Why? Because a definite decision creates a definite path forward. But a vague decision creates nothing. A maybe creates nothing. An I'll try creates nothing. The universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it, responds to definiteness. It responds to clarity. It responds to commitment. When you truly decide, when you commit with finality, your brain shifts gears. It stops looking for reasons why it won't work and starts looking for ways to make it work. It stops seeing obstacles as stop signs and starts seeing them as puzzles to solve. It stops asking if and stops asking how. That's the power of decision. Now, most people avoid making definite decisions because they're afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of failing. They're afraid of commitment. But here's what they don't understand. Not deciding is a decision. And it's usually the worst decision. When you don't decide, you drift. When you drift, you go nowhere. And going nowhere is the slowest way to fail. At least when you make a decision and it turns out wrong, you learn something. You gain experience. You can adjust. You can try something else. But when you don't decide, you learn nothing. You gain nothing. You just waste time. I'd rather make 10 decisions and have 5 of them be wrong than make no decisions at all. Because at least with the 5 wrong decisions, I learned 5 lessons. And those 5 lessons helped me make better decisions next time. But the person who makes no decisions learns nothing. So here's what I want you to do right now. Make a decision. A real one. A definite one. What is the one thing you've been putting off deciding? What is the one thing you've been thinking about or considering or planning to do someday? Decide right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now. And when you decide, decide with finality. Say it out loud. Write it down. Tell someone. Make it real. Because once you decide, really decide, the path forward becomes clear. The confusion disappears. The resources appear. The opportunities show up. Not because of magic, but because your brain finally has a clear target. And once your brain has a clear target, it can work on hitting it. But as long as your decision is vague, your results will be vague. Make the decision. Make it now, and watch what happens. Now let me talk about something that separates the people who build wealth from the people who stay broke forever. It's the willingness to invest in yourself. Most people are willing to invest money in anything except themselves. They'll buy lottery tickets. They'll invest in stocks they don't understand. They'll loan money to friends who won't pay them back. But ask them to invest in their own education, their own skills, their own business, and suddenly they're too careful, too cautious, too afraid. That's backwards. The best investment you can ever make is in yourself, because you're the only asset you fully control. You're the only asset that can't be taken from you. You're the only asset that increases in value when you invest in it. When I was young and barely making ends meet, I spent money on books about engines. I spent money on tools. I spent money on materials to build my prototypes. My friends thought I was crazy. They said, "Henry, you can barely afford food. Why are you spending money on books?" I said, "Because these books will teach me how to never be poor again." And I was right. Every dollar I invested in learning paid me back 1,000 times. Every hour I spent studying paid me back with years of success. But most people do the opposite. They spend money on things that depreciate, things that lose value, entertainment, comfort, stuff. And they wonder why they never get ahead. Listen, I'm not saying don't enjoy life, but I am saying that if you're not where you want to be financially, You need to be investing in yourself, not in things. If you want to build wealth, you have to be willing to invest in yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means sacrificing comfort now for success later. Because here's the truth. Every dollar you invest in developing your skills, your knowledge, your abilities, is a dollar that will pay dividends for the rest of your life. So start investing in yourself. Buy the books, take the courses, learn the skills, build the business, because the best investment you can ever make is in yourself. Now let me tell you something that took me too long to learn. And if you get this now, it'll save you years of struggle. You can't do it alone. I tried. In the beginning, I thought I could build everything myself, design the cars myself, build them myself, sell them myself, run the whole business myself. And you know what happened? I almost failed. Because no matter how smart you are, no matter how talented you are, no matter how hard you work, you can't do everything. You need other people. But not just any people, the right people. Let me tell you about two men who changed my business. James Cousins and the Dodge brothers. James Cousins was my business manager. I was good at building cars. James was good at running businesses. He understood money. He understood operations. He understood things I didn't understand. I could have tried to learn all that myself, but it would have taken me years I didn't have. So instead, I brought in James. And he did what he was good at, while I did what I was good at. The Dodge brothers built components for my cars. They were incredible machinists. They could build things I couldn't build. They had skills I didn't have. Together, we built something none of us could have built alone. That's the partnership principle. You find people who are strong where you're weak. You find people who have skills you don't have. And you work together. But here's the key. You have to choose the right partners. I've seen people partner with the wrong people and destroy their businesses. I've seen people bring in partners who were lazy, or dishonest, or incompetent. And those partnerships failed. So when you're choosing partners, whether it's business partners or employees or advisors, you need to be careful. You need to look for three things. First, competence. They need to be good at what they do, really good. You're not looking for people who are just okay. You're looking for people who are excellent in their area. Second, character. They need to be honest, reliable, trustworthy, because you're going to be depending on them. And if you can't trust them, the partnership won't work. Third, commitment. They need to be committed to the same goal you are. They need to want success as much as you do, because if they're not committed, they'll quit when things get hard. If someone has all three, competence, character, and commitment, partner with them. If they're missing any one of those three, don't. I made the mistake once of partnering with a man who was competent but lacked character. He was skilled. He knew what he was doing, but he was dishonest. It cost me a lot of money and a lot of time before I finally cut ties with him. After that, I learned. No matter how talented someone is, if they don't have character, I don't work with them. Now here's something important. When you find the right partners, pay them well, really well. Some business owners try to pay as little as possible. They think they're being smart. They're being cheap. And you know what happens? The good people leave, and they're left with mediocre people. And mediocre people build mediocre businesses. I paid my people well, really well, better than anyone else in the industry. And you know what? I got the best people, and the best people built the best company. Paying people well isn't an expense, it's an investment. So find the right people, pay them well, treat them with respect, and work together toward a common goal. Because you can't build anything great alone. But with the right people, you can build something extraordinary. Now let me tell you something that's probably hard to hear, but it's true, and you need to know it. Most people who are listening to this right now won't do anything with it. They'll listen, they'll nod, they'll think that's good advice, and then they'll go back to doing exactly what they've always done. Why? Because knowing and doing are two different things. Most people know what they should do. They know they should work harder. They know they should save money. They know they should invest in themselves. They know they should be consistent, but they don't do it. You know why? Because it's hard. And most people choose comfort over growth. They choose easy over effective. They choose familiar over successful. I've given this advice to hundreds of people over the years, and you know how many actually followed it? Maybe 5%. The other 95%? They had excuses. I don't have time. I don't have money. My situation is different. It's not the right time. I'll do it later. And those 95% are still exactly where they were when I talked to them. But that 5%? They're the ones who built something. They're the ones who succeeded. Not because they were more talented, not because they had better circumstances, but because they actually did something. So here's my question for you. Which group are you going to be in? Are you going to be in the 95% who listen and do nothing? Or are you going to be in the 5% who actually take action? Because I've given you everything you need. I've told you exactly what to do. I've explained the principles. I've given you the practical steps. I've shared the examples. The information isn't the problem. The problem is whether you'll use it or not. And here's the hard truth. If you don't take action in the next 24 hours, you probably never will. I've seen it 1,000 times. People get excited, they get motivated, they make plans, and then they wait. And while they're waiting, the excitement fades, the motivation disappears, and they go back to their old life. But the people who succeed, they don't wait, they act immediately. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Right now, today, before this day ends, take one action, just one, toward the goal you've been thinking about. Make one phone call, write one page, research one idea, take one step. It doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is that you do it now. Because once you take that first step, the second step becomes easier, and the third step becomes easier still. And before you know it, you've built momentum. But if you don't take that first step, nothing happens. All this knowledge, all this advice, all these principles, they're worthless if you don't act on them. So which is it going to be? Are you going to be part of the 95% who do nothing? Or are you going to be part of the 5% who build something? The choice is yours, but choose quickly, because every day you wait is a day you'll never get back. Okay, so let me bring this all together, because I want you to walk away from this with absolute clarity. Money isn't hiding from you. Money is waiting on you. It's waiting on you to decide what problem you're going to solve. It's waiting on you to start acting like the person who deserves it. It's waiting on you to create value, to think like a creator instead of an employee. It's waiting on you to start with what you have instead of waiting for perfect conditions. It's waiting on you to move fast instead of overthinking, to be consistent instead of sporadic. It's waiting on you to focus instead of scattering your energy, to build a reputation worth paying for. It's waiting on you to serve people instead of just chasing profit. Money is waiting on you to wake up. And by wake up, I mean this. Stop living like you're powerless. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission. Stop making excuses. Stop delaying. Stop drifting. Start deciding. Start acting. Start building. Start serving. Show up every single day with discipline and commitment. Because that's what it takes. Not luck. Not connections, not perfect timing. Just decision, action, and consistency. I started with nothing. No money, no connections, no advantages. Just an idea and a willingness to work. And I built an empire. Not because I was special, but because I understood these principles and I applied them every single day. Listen, you can do the same thing, right where you are, with what you have. Starting today, but you have to decide, and you have to act, and you have to be consistent, because money is waiting, but it won't wait forever. Every day you delay, someone else is taking the opportunities you're leaving on the table. Someone else is building what you're just thinking about while you hesitate. So stop waiting. Wake up and get to work. But don't just jump into massive action that you can't sustain. Start with small, incremental actions. Do them every day. Build them into a system. Because small actions, repeated daily, become habits. Habits become systems. And systems produce results. You don't need to transform your entire life overnight. You need to make one small improvement today, and then another tomorrow, and another the day after that. That's how empires are built. Not in dramatic leaps, but in consistent, daily steps forward. So start small. Start now, and don't stop. Take one small action today, then do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. Before you know it, those small actions will compound into something significant, something real, something that changes your life. The truth is simple. Money has never been the obstacle. You are what money has been waiting for all along. Start building now. Take it one step at a time. Good luck.